Okay, let's go ahead and go live. Oh man, this is really a thing. That's awesome. Chat's talking about there's a source book. Is this out? No, it's been announced. Oh, it's just an it's not a full rule book though. It's just like an expansion. Okay, weird. Apparently there's a Clone Wars tabletop. But hello, ladies and gentlemen, CaptainShacks here. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to a chill stream today where we're going to talk about tabletop RPGs. We're going to talk about Star Wars. We're going to talk about making a campaign from the GM perspective. I am by no means an expert at this, but I am happy to share my kind of learning process and developing of a campaign. I'm getting ready for a new campaign in the book Age of Rebellion, which is super heavy, and right next to me, if I pick it up here, ignore the background right now going on, but this is the current rule Bible. I actually don't use this as often as I use, even for this campaign, as often as I use the original rule book, which is, you know, super thick, and this is the Edge of the Empire, which is what we actually played last time on the channel. We actually streamed it. So if you haven't seen us ever see a game played, you're more than welcome to check that out. We did about 6 or 7 episodes on the channel. But yeah, this is the original rulebook. You don't need every rulebook. You only really need one. We're going to be focusing on the Rebel faction. We're going to be playing as Rebels in this one, or at least my players will be, doing a campaign. We'll talk about the setting in just a second, but that's why we're going to be working out of the Age of Rebellion book. I like using the Edge of the Empire one because if you noticed, I've got tabs for days for like every rule that I may need to come across, and 99% of this book, rule-wise, is exactly the same as the other 2 books, right? The only things that are different are there's a system called the duty system in the Rebellion book. In this one, it's called obligation. And then in the Force and Destiny book, the big difference is there's a lot more Force-related stuff in that one. But there's Force stuff in all 3 books. If you have a character or player who wants to play as a Jedi or a Gray Jedi or a Force user of some kind, you can totally do it. Okay, well, let's get into planning out a campaign. So my plan for this campaign is to set it in the era right before the announcement of the intentions to before the word Rebel Alliance is a thing, right? This is before Mon Mothma announces the big speech she gives, and she announces her intentions to leave the Senate and declare that she is starting a rebellion to restore the Republic. And so it's this period where there's resistance factions kind of rising up in the turmoil of what the Empire is doing. It's Iron Fist. The harder that they clench down on systems, the more, well, resistance starts to crop up, right? Some full star systems have started to rebel. In other places, small rebel cells have begun forming up. All kinds of fun stuff. So it's a cool moment where, like, this is right on the cusp of those cells realizing that they are stronger united and working together, and this is where that's going to take place. So hang on a second, gotta clean up chat a little bit. Anybody that's spamming, just gotta knock those people out real fast. Don't tell me what to do. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to look up what we've got so far. So the perspective of this campaign, and that's where I like to start out, is like, what kind of story do we want to tell? I know a lot of the YouTube guide videos that are out there right now would tell you if you're getting started as a GM and you want to plan out a campaign, you know, you want to match the movies and you want to have that same kind of movie feel, and I don't believe that's the case. I kind of go in as what kind of story do I want to try to tell with my players, and less about like where I want to railroad them into, and more about what kind of feeling do I want them to come away with. Like what's the situation that they're in. Since they're going to be playing as Rebel Infantry in this one, it's going to be a very desperate time for them in this time period. They're outgunned, outnumbered. The Empire is going to just come and they can kind of come and crush them, and the idea is they're going to have to overcome just extreme challenges from, you know, the muddy boots on the ground perspective. So I started writing up a quick. Let me move my camera around. Can I do that? Yeah, there we go. I've never done my desktop on screen before. The music that we're listening to is from Epidemic Sound. It's their random, like, lo-fi sci-fi playlist. I have no idea what's going to play, so. And as soon as I say that, the music just stops. Thanks, Epidemic. Appreciate it. So, opening up, we're starting off with a military unit, right? There's a planet. So the start of our campaign. My players better not be watching this, by the way. Is going to be on a moon around a gas giant, a blue gas giant, and this moon is it could be about the same size as Earth. Assistance from a neighboring resistance cell is sent to help the fight on this planet. They arrived during a massive push by the Empire that has the planet defenders falling back on all fronts. Okay, so the world is called Fakor, and it is currently being sieged by the Empire. Unlike all the other places, let me just read what we've written so far. On the largest northern continent of the moon known as Fakar, orbiting a gas giant, the Resistance stronghold is under siege. The Resistance is basically what's left of this planet's population/military. Large anti-ship planetary defense guns hold off the Empire's space force. That's why the ISDs just can't come close and bomb the crap out of them. The stronghold itself is, or rather was, a massive metropolis, a major urban center and a core of the world's trade and population centers. Now, fires rage and thick smoke blankets the skies as street fighting has become the daily norm. Originally, it was assumed that the world would fall in just a matter of days, a week on the outside, if the Fakor leadership didn't do what was most expected, as all others did before them, surrender to the will of the Empire. But the experts didn't take into account the world's long history of warfare. Most of the citizenry has served in some form or another as part of the planet's military. Even their leadership was one part elected official and one part general or admiral. The world has fought off invaders before. The Drilgar invasion, the Hapes Proclamation campaigns, and now the Empire. It's here for the first time. The Empire's mighty war machine has been slowed. And to all surprise, not by some megacorporation or new wildlands threat or a separatist uprising on an established core world, but by a world on the mid-rim, a world whose technology is considered antiquated at best. Now, they're not winning this war by any means. Oh, thank you so much, guys, for the donations. Holy crap. Hot Mahogany. Thank you so much for the $200 donation. Hey, Shaq, you're on early. Yeah, I figured we'd do an early stream today, because I'm going to stream over on Twitch later, doing a little No Man's Sky, I think. So, Conservative Russian. Hey, Shaq, you're awesome. I know this is not much, but I hope it helps. Get some Mr. Coffee. Well, thank you for the 200, Conservative. Appreciate it. Anthony, thank you for the 2. Ever thought about playing Axis and Allies? No. Not really my style, I don't think. Especially the tabletop one. I don't know. Tabletop's just so expensive to get into, no matter what you're doing. But so that's our campaign idea. Now, originally, I was kicking around the idea of like, what would this planet be like, right? And the idea that maybe their technology is a little bit farther behind. Like they were one of those first colony ships that were sent out from the core worlds, and multiple generations passed before they finally reached this small world they call their own. Over the last 100 years, they've been invaded multiple times by outsiders, and it has twisted their culture into this very military. Think Sparta, right? Think Sparta mixed with their level of technology would almost be like the Imperial Guard, right? Like their technology is almost this World War II era, like large cannoned weapons that have been hastily retrofitted with technology from the galaxy at large. Smugglers have been bringing them weapons to help supply them for the last 100 or so years to fight off these invaders who've come to their planet. And why do they keep coming to their planet? Well, their planet is going to have a resource that is important to the Empire. Now, I'm curious what you guys think. What would that resource be? It could be a fuel. It could be a mineral. I think maybe a mineral of some kind. I'm thinking maybe like, let's look up what's the main plate armor that the Empire uses to construct its death machines. It's like Star Destroyers, the AT-ATs. Durasteel. Durasteel is the name of it. Durasteel, Star Wars. Do a little search for Durasteel. Star Wars, and then do they have like what the ore is called? Zercium was an ore critical to making of Durasteel and was found. And Durasteel was a type of metal alloy used for a variety of purposes, ranging from combat armor to buildings. So, okay, this kind of fits with our concept. Now, our idea is that these guys are like Spartan-esque, right? Let's go with, I'll just throw this in my notes somewhere. Let's say Durasteel. Kyber crystals. Kyber crystals. We're shying away from anything to do with the Force when it comes to like Jedis and stuff like that. At least early on. So we're not going to do Kyber crystals. Kyber crystals are more of a power source anyways. It could be something. I mean, Kyber crystals aren't bad. It's just a little early to go so hardcore into something. Transparent aluminum. All I can think of is Star Trek when you say transparent aluminum. Vibranium. Little off on the franchise. Dunium? Dunium's a thing in Star Wars, isn't it? Yeah, I like it. Let's do a Durasteel. It kind of fits with the concept. Like, everything on this world, because the whole point of this planet, and what I really like about this starting concept, is that it wasn't this big military, this big force in the galaxy that first slowed the Empire down. It was one world that was willing to give the finger to the Empire and say, no, you can't have what's ours. We fought for it before. And this is where all eyes now turn suddenly to some mid-rim world that nobody cared about and says, wait a minute, are they fighting the Empire? And it's like a cultural thing for them. Even though they know they can't win, they have to fight. And all eyes now go to this moon, and they're like, they're not winning, but they're slowing the Empire down. You can fight the Empire. And it's this perfect moment in the Star Wars lore where this could be like one of those moments in the greater galaxy that start having people think maybe a rebellion is possible. Maybe we can overthrow the Empire before the rebellion to restore the Republic exists, before the Alliance exists. And that everything maybe on this world, its people, even its ore, is just made of tougher stuff, right? So like Durasteel, the thing that they use for their armor plating, even that is made of tougher stuff. And since they have it, maybe their technology is made out of it. So yeah, maybe it's older and it's crappier, but their armor is just as good as the Empire's because their main ore source on this moon is Durasteel. It is the stuff that they make their stuff out of, their tanks out of, their artillery out of. So yeah, it's super depressing. Let's go with a different song than that. All right, so Durasteel, the greater known Xercium ore. It's kind of I don't really like the name of there. So maybe that's the name that the canon was. A mineral ore essential to the production of Durasteel, the planet of Nag Ubdur. I say, see, the Empire strip mined the world, right? And that's what they want to do with this world. So we'll go ahead and throw Xercium in there, and we'll give it another name. So there's Xercium ore is what the Empire is looking for. We're gonna rename that though. So on the world itself, I came up with the name Fakor. So let's kind of have riff on that. So the world's population would be like Fakorians, right? Something like that. Let's see. Tabana Gas would be cool. Hi, Captain Shack. Everybody's called you. What in the world? Okay. Well, they wouldn't have slug throwers. So, well, maybe when they were first invaded, like that first time, sure, they had like old slug throwers. But as they've modified their technology, they're now using the more traditional blaster weapons. Like they've had smugglers coming and going and buying weapons from them. It's actually one of the ways, and I'll let you guys in on some of the character stuff because my players aren't watching this. They better not be watching this. We'll let you know on a couple of character things. So, all right. So one of our characters, Xercium ore. Let's go with Corium. Is Corium already a thing in Star Wars? Let me flick that off before I do a random Google search for something and not know what we're gonna see. You know what I mean? Corium. It's actually a real-world fuel. Cool, that works. Corium is what they call it. So even they say even our planet is made of more badass material. All right, we can pop that back onto the browser. So locally Corium. Nice. Now one of our players, it's actually going to be Tabby, is playing a sergeant on the world. The idea was that they would be overrun in a couple of days by the Empire, maybe a week if it took them a while. They've been fighting over this planet for maybe 4 to 6 months now. And it's just brutal urban fighting at this point. They're in the last major metropolis where the moon's military has just set up defenses, and it's awful urban fighting. And one of our characters, it's going to be Tabby's character, is now been promoted through attrition and her ability to lead to the rank of sergeant. She's a fire team leader. Huge portions of her platoon have already been wiped out just over the course of the fighting. But this is what they do, right? It's a warrior culture. Everyone is served. Everyone has been trained in some way in the military. It's that Spartan kind of lifestyle almost. So that's where we're going to come in. She's going to be our introductory character to the rest of the characters, who are going to be people who have signed up for the rebellion but have never fought before. They've never been boots on the ground. Maybe they've had skirmishes and with local cells. They've signed up on their own world and they want to take it to the Empire for one reason or another, but they have no idea what they're actually in for. And their first assignment is to a world where they think they're going to help fight, but in reality, they're going to help with just holding actions and retreat to get the last of the surviving members of this moon off of it. That's what our main campaign, I think, story is going to be. Here at the beginning, for like the first 2 or 3 episodes, is going to be get there and make sure that whoever survives can get to the transport and get off. And so your job is to slow the Empire down before the city is overrun. And they're thinking they're going to be the big damn heroes and show up and actually fight and win, right? Like, they have no idea. So we're going to have to sell that kind of concept. Are we talking about Crotus weapons? Oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to put that. I thought about it. There's a material that can stop a lightsaber, and so it allows for certain factions to fight the Jedi way back in the day. How do you say it? Crotus? It's something that it's really hard to find. It's very expensive. It makes the weapons made out of that stuff very rare. And I thought maybe put that in here, but it doesn't do them any good. They're not fighting the Sith. They're not fighting Vader. They're just fighting the Empire as like the Imperial army has invaded. So that doesn't really fit the story. Yeah, Cortosis or Corto. Yeah, I don't know how you say it properly, pronounce it, but it's in the books as like that thing that can stop it. Or Mandalorian gear. Yeah, I think Mandalorians used it particularly early in the early days, like the old wars, right? The one that broke their planet, kind of thing. That's some fun lore there. All right, so we've got our concept for the world. We have our introduction. So one of our other characters is going to play a B2 battle droid who has a malfunction and is from the Clone Wars era. But he has a malfunction where if his power drops to a certain point, if it's around the 40% range is what he says in his background, his other personality like kind of flicks over, and he goes from being the B2 to being this. Now, through years of just like corruption, he's ended up turning into this very hardcore, for various reasons because of his background, very hardcore medical droid. Yeah, and let me see if I've got any images for you guys so you can kind of see. That's not what I wanted to do. I don't even use, get out of here. Let me, I'm gonna flick the camera off for just a second so I can pull up Discord and pull a couple of pictures off of it so you guys can see some of his concepts. But if he ever goes to full power, he switches back to murder, death, kill mode. Yeah, like that's a thing. Let's see, open link. So he has this more like traditional kind of goofy personality, but if he ever gets full power, and he knows this because of all the years. Anyways, he's been sold. I'll put a picture in our little notes section here, a couple pictures. He's been sold at one point or another in one of the weapon runs that smugglers have been taking to this world. He's been sold as a weapon to fight the threats, the Empire. And what they expected to get was a murder, death, kill robot. Ended up getting this won't hurt a fly, refuses to kill at least, droid that, there we go. Let me put this back on now. Droid that wants to, it's a medic, right? He's basically a combat medic for all skill intents and purposes. But the character that I guess protected him, I'm not sure what the story is yet. I know those two are still talking about it. Who said, no, I want them on my squad, was Tabby's sergeant character, and now he's their combat medic. The idea being that when he's in his normal mode, he has a shield in one hand that helps defend the wounded, so it'll squawk up, drop the shield, and defend the wounded, while his other hand and a small there's actually an item you can buy, which is like this hovering medical droid that will do its healing thing. You can do various rolls and heal wounded that way. When if one of the players makes his battery pack go full charge by flipping a certain switch or something on his back, he'll go back to battle mode. He'll drop the shield, and he'll go, you know, the twin blasters will pop up. And I've actually allowed for almost the split personality where he's allowed to move 2 of his points from his medical skills, his yellow dice, to his combat dice, his light ranged. So he can actually switch combat modes, and his character's personality completely flips. But there is a risk that he could be corrupted, and he loses. Go Gonk Droid, full Gonk Droid. He could be corrupted and lose his main personality, which is the one that doesn't want to kill. So there's a bit of fun story there. So that's our first 2 characters that will be on the moon when we start out. But our other 2 characters are still being developed, and that's Texas and Blitzes. And they're going to be arriving. They're going to be our perspective from the outside. So I have to figure out what they see when they come in and what their mission is going to be. What's that first mission going to be like? So we'll leave those pictures in there for now. That's fine. I already started working out a little bit of that. Maybe some character names that we could go with, goals that they could run into. What would their goals be? So they're on transports, heavily armored. We should actually figure out what those transports are. What transports would the Rebel Alliance? A fledgling one, right? Who's only moving in a few infantry squads. Maybe like at most 30 in multiple transports. It'd be something small and armored. What would that be? That these guys are going to be able to like maybe look out some windows and see the world that they're approaching, and when they come into land, how much damage the Empire has done. You know, the billowing smoke from the city fires. The lights that you can see flashing as they're flying in to land at the command post. They represent the firefights in maybe the thick forests and urban centers that have been destroyed, the rubble that used to be a city. A GH-75, a U-Wing, a LAT. All good, but a LAT wouldn't be good for space travel for a long period, so it would need to be something a bit bigger than that. They're not going to show up in anything very large. No capital ships. Remember, this is before the Alliance to Restore the Rebellion is a thing. They don't have the Mon Cal on their side. They don't have any of those big ships. GH-70, is it GR or GH? Is it GR-75? You're thinking about the transports they had at the Battle for Hoth, right? No. We want Rebel. Oh, goodness. Hang on. Let me look. I think it's GR. It's GR-75, isn't it? Yeah, it's GR-75. There it is. So GR-75 transports. Yeah, I mean, that would work. It's not very armored. It's not very... You know what? I got an idea. Let me see. Anybody else? Y-Wings? They wouldn't show up in Y-Wings. Because those would be bombers, right? Those are assets that could be used in much better ways. And honestly, how many Y-Wings would they have? Who knows? Let me drop camera real quick. And I think actually Age of Rebellion in the book has some stuff we can mess around with. A stolen Arquintans. That's not bad. A little big for our needs, to be honest. We just need a transport. Something like almost maybe YT size, but a little bit bigger. Let's see. So in the rule books, they've actually got all the stats necessary for various ships. I don't know this book as well as I know the Edge one. That would be under, was that gear and equipment maybe? How to use destiny points. I think I'm too far. But they have all the stats because there's actually a whole system on how to operate space combat in ground vehicles. Why a bunch of Y-Wings showing it could be alarming to the local government, though. The local government, they would know that they're coming. They would know that help is coming. Like a distress call had been sent out. It's like if anybody wishes to join us in our glorious fight against the Empire. Or maybe they even said, we're retreating and we need help getting our troops out of there. Is there any local resistance that would willing to help out? And a couple of them say, yes, we'll come, but we won't come to fight. We won't tell our ground troops this. We won't tell them that it's a losing battle. We're just going to tell them that we're going to help fight. Which could be really good. Okay, I am totally not finding it. So let me look at the ships. I know there's a word for this one. If Tex was in the chat, he'd be able to tell me right away. Maybe it's considered starships. see. The YT-1100. T4As are tanks, aren't they? Hammerhead's not bad. Hammerhead's not bad. Oh, this is set up totally different than the other one. There we go. All right. No, not Lambda Shuttle. Oh, here we go. This is good. Yeah, here we go. What about the YV-292? 929 Armored Transport. That could be really good. Let's look that one up real quick. Let me turn off camera because, you know, Google searching. I don't trust it. YV-TAC 929 Armored Transport. And it could be like 3 of these are coming in. Oh, I like this. Here, you guys will see in just a sec. It's a very cool looking ship. And it's... I'll read the description because it might work really well. And you never know what's going to happen, right? So this may come back later. I'll look up CR120. Don't spam, guys. I see your messages. There we go. So that is the armored YV-929. CR120. Let me look at the CR120 real fast. CR120. Star Wars. I like that printers come up. What? Whatever this is. I mean, it's kind of good. It would sort of fit, but I think I like the smaller, like slightly bigger than a YT arm, and it's known for being an armored transport. So if we read this here, it is a rarity among the civilian engineering vessels, which have always been cargo vessels first and foremost. The YV-929 was designed from the keel up as an armored transport, classified as a light freighter similar to the 1300 and the 2400. It's bulky, heavily armored, and armed transport vessel designed to operate in hostile areas of space without an armored escort. So this thing could take a bit of a pounding coming in, and be a troop transport for like a handful of fire teams. And this is like all the fledgling would-be rebellion the other resistance cells could manage to scrape together was like this, and whoever volunteers to go in and help them. And then maybe they've got like one other one of these, or like a YT, something to start picking up people and move as many as they can. We could pack them in like sardines in this thing as part of the story, if it all goes well and they're actually able to evacuate. Potentially. So I like it. So let's do that. That'll be our transport that our players are in. That our 2 players are part of the other volunteers. We'll have a number of volunteers. We can come up with a few characters. Armored freighter is what it's called. Actually, I'll even just copy this image and throw it into our doc. We can pop that in there to give them some kind of context of what they're in. And then there's the transport. Oops. It's called the YV-292. Bam. Fantastic. Armored transport. That some cell nearby happen to have access to. Hey guys. Thanks, Billy. Appreciate the kind words. Did I feel like I missed a donation earlier. I didn't say anything. I apologize if I missed a donation. Didn't say anything. Oh no, it was the Axis and Allies one. Never mind. We're good. Okay. So, armored transport. That's where they're coming in. So we've got our 2 other characters. Fresh into the Rebel Alliance, never have fought on the ground outside of maybe small skirmishes on their world. They think they're like top hot shit, and they're gonna land hell on earth, months of being sieged, urban warfare. And what would they do when they first arrive? Now they're probably gonna meet with our sergeant character, which is going to be our introductory character, Tabby's character, they're gonna join up with her squad, and they'll be given their mission, right? But what would be the first things that they would want to do, and who would they meet? They'd probably meet with a local command staff. What was the unit number? The 32nd Infantry. The Street Mups is their nickname that I gave them. Now, I've got a couple of names here already. I don't know anything about these characters. The leader of the unit that they're joining up with, and they're going to be filling in units where they've been lost, would be the 32nd. So under the command of Captain Soren. Sinor Soren is the name it just came to me. I don't know what we're going to do then. So who is the captain that runs this thing? I say, since our sergeant, we have a female sergeant, we'll make the captain a hardened, probably in her like 40s or 50s, like older. So older, experienced. I said older, in her 50s. An Imperial ambush right off the bat. Oh, I like it, ODST. Let's get them down, introduced, give them a mission, like a hot meal, and be like, all right, we have an objective, and then we'll figure out like what that objective is, and then what are the events that lead us to that objective that could happen, and we'll come up with a couple. Imperial ambush, definitely. I love it, ODST. We'll pop it in there. And what would that ambush be? You know, give it some thought. Are we talking like sniper up in a bombed out building that bullseyes their attempts to hit their first their point man? You know, we could have that kind of deal, and then see what skills they've got. Maybe they notice him before he has a chance to fire, because I don't know what their skills are. We could go with like a scout trooper up there. We could do minefield, explosives. We could have them run into a patrol that outnumbers them, and they have the chance of like scouting around it, depending on the choices that they make. It could be a heavy weapons team, all kinds of fun stuff. But anyways, okay, so we got this captain. She's running the what's left of the Street Mups, which is an urban fighting warfare specialty platoon. That's what we'll say. It's a platoon. What is left of it? It's probably down like 20 or 30% of its members. That's why they're bringing in these new people and saying, okay, I think Rebel Command will be able to stand to your shenanigans. Of course, Rebel Command doesn't even really exist. At this time period, it would be more like whispers in the dark, right? Like if you've watched Rebels, it'd be like Fulcrum and these secretive meetings and this starting to form command structure, with secretly Mon Mothma at the top, and the House of Alderaan would be part of it. And they would be kind of funding some of these cells and kind of organizing and figuring out who is where and what assets we'd have access to, in the hope that they never have to use them, but if it comes to it, like if they dissolve the Senate, that a rebellion is the only way to restore a democratic government, right? So that's like their goal. So there is a rebel command, but they don't really have a name for it yet. Like the Alliance doesn't exist as a name. Thank you, Alex, for the $5 though. Have an Imperial Admiral commanding the attack be Constantine. Is that a character in the universe already, or is that just the name? Because we also have to figure out, like, yeah, who are they up against? So let's do Imperial as well. Let's figure out our factions. Imperial faction leadership. And we're not going to go too deep into this because they're not going to be dealing with higher ups, other than maybe a passing name that they hear. Admiral I like the name. Can't go wrong with Admiral Constantine. I do worry that that's actually a character. Let me know if that's a character. It's already in the universe. We don't want to go too ham with like characters that exist because our players are going to interact with them, potentially fight them at some point. Anybody that we introduce today could be a great foe that's used later on in the campaign and returns. Don't spam your chats, guys. No copy pasta on that. I see it. I see your CG 45 gunship shenanigans. They're gonna walk in. We don't want to put them in transports right away. Maybe ground transports of some kind. Maybe. Where they're probably not gonna fly right in. Okay, so we'll go back to Soren. She's our commander. She's in her 50s. What does she look like? What would be a cool... What would be a cool look for her? Career military, I think like a sci-fi version of almost like a society that's all about military service, warfare, usability. Like what would she probably have short hair of some kind, in her 50s, maybe have like half of her head is shaved off on one side and the other half has like a bit of hair that comes down. Remember, she's older. She's probably got a couple of battle scars, so maybe a battle scar. Battle scar over her ear, and over her ear and face, on the side that like her head is shaved on. Maybe because it's been like burned or something. That could be interesting. Because remember, they've been fighting for like 6 months. This could have happened then. It could have happened in like the last invasion when she was younger. You may not, the players may never know. So. Cybernetic. Oh, like have a cybernetic eye, like she lost the eye on the same side. So like the hair doesn't grow on that side, so she just shaved it. And she's got like half long, like the hair is kind of like draped over the other side. She's got maybe a cybernetic eye or just a patch. Like maybe more recently she's lost the eye. I like that. I like that. Cybernetic eye could be good. So let's do cybernetic eye. I like that. Cybernetic. Now remember, the tech on this planet's kind of crap, right? So what would the eye, what unique feature can we give the eye that kind of adds to the character? And a blast scar on her neck, so that it goes like all the way down to the neck. That could be good. So blasts, battle scar over her ear, face, and neck. That leads to like an armored chest piece that she wears that maybe has like almost like a popped bomb collar. I could dig that. I could see that. Cybernetic eye on one side. The eye should have something that kind of maybe like almost like a copper eye there. Like a copper eye with bolts surrounding it that kind of holds it in place, like it's just been bolted into her face. All right, so now what's her main objective here? What's her main priority? Well, we know that the Empire they're winning. Now this culture, and Tabby's kind of fleshing out the culture because it's part of her background. And we were talking about like they're really big on the one-liners, like the quips, very Spartan. What is the what's the word for it? The Redix phrase, the turnabout phrase that Spartans were really known for. Short, concise answers that might be a bit of a burn when they're talking to people. I think Jabba Palace Eye. I think I'm missing out on that one. I don't remember. I gotta watch the Return of the Jedi again. And give it a little bit of a red glow. A copper bolted eye with a red glow. That changes when she gets heated up. The angrier and louder she gets, the more it just glows outward, right? Oh, I like that. Red glow. It's like a mood ring. Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. And their primary objective, and what the mission will probably end up being, is that, we know the Empire is closing in on them. So, their mission objective wouldn't be to win, it'd be to slow the Empire down as they await maybe the last of the transports. The only reason the Empire can't bomb them to bits is because they've got a handful of planetary cannons. Like maybe really old school, but like tied directly into this city's like last bit of power. So now we're not talking like ion cannons. We're talking like a brutal version of maybe some kind of hyper velocity cannon. They've got a handful of them, and that keeps the enemy from landing troops directly on top of them or just bombarding them to pieces. Because this is like a major metropolis that's on fire and is just being blasted back to the Stone Age. But they have to use ground troops. So those ground troops are now closing in on the last fortification, the last city. So what their mission would have to be holding actions, right? What would be a reason to send the squad out to the front line? It would have to be to stop a major push. But we want something more specific than that. Vi can never turn off, so she can't ever sleep properly. Oh man, maybe we'll put that in as a little bit of the character stuff. We may use it. She may not make it off the planet. We don't know. Maybe that's part of what the players, like the player actions, could dictate whether or not the command staff gets off the planet or not. If they're successful in their mission, then the command staff can get off the planet, and a handful of the last of these people, of the Fakorians, can make it off. And then maybe that could be an asset that could be later used by the players. You know, they get a few members of this moon that joins them. Rescue civilians, attack a field HQ. Oh, that's good. Sabotage a vehicle. Guerrilla tactics and sabotage a vehicle. I like that. We could have Oh, okay, I got an idea. I like what you guys are, where you're going with this. You're on point. You're on point. We got a few good stuff. All right, so it's a holding action. We know the Empire's about to make a big push, and they've got a convoy coming in. And this squad's objective, and maybe not just this squad, they're actually sending, we'll do a whole, we'll do like 2 squads. So it's 4 fire teams. So they'll have 2, we can give them, oh yeah, we can give them 2 objectives. Got it, here's what we'll do. It's a holding actions. They have to slow the enemy. Slow the Empires. Slow the Empire's advance. Now they know the Empire's dropping heavy walkers and a column of armored vehicles, and they need to stop them from getting in. Maybe there's like a major highway. So, highway needs to be blocked. So we can have them mine it. We could have them ambush the convoy, but that doesn't seem like, if this is a convoy that's large enough to threaten the last, like this is a convoy that'll punch through whatever defenses they've got left on the planet, it's gonna have to be something more impressive. So let's give them, yeah, it needs to be blocked. Let's see if there's a pass. Oh, yeah. We'll have a sabotage, and we'll do some guerrilla tactics on the way. So there's lots of events when we get there, but here's the main objective. They're sent to block a pass, but they're never told exactly, like the rest of the squad doesn't know what the actual blocking the pass means. They're probably thinking like a natural, you know, like a natural canyon or something, and they're gonna break some rocks and fill in the pass, but actually we'll make the pass be, it's a major highway, and there are 2 large skyscrapers on either side of it, and both of these have to be detonated from the inside to collapse across the highway to stop even the all-terrain walkers from being able to get across quickly. And this could slow them down for another like day or 2, so they won't be able to move their troops through. So that means our squads, our full platoon of two squads, 4 fire teams, have to split up to take both of these buildings out. Like they have to go down to the support structures and detonate them and collapse them, because it's all urban fighting, right? So that could be their objective. And en route, we can have some random things they run across as they go forward, which could be a lot of fun. So major highway pass needs to be blocked. So we're just like, you have to block that pass, take explosives, here's the location, and now they've got to go through like thick urban fighting and intermittent large like forested areas maybe to get there. That could be fun. So major highway, 2 massive skyscrapers. They used to be like housing units, you know, for civilians. Now long abandoned, mind you, and they're not going to be blowing up populated spaces. Blow up buildings to collapse on the major road. Yep. Stop, that's on point. He knows what I'm talking about. While transports come and go and try to, you know, they're just trying to hold them off as the main city is evacuated as best it can be. Major highway needs to be blocked. 2 massive skyscrapers taken down from the lowest levels to drop over the main pass. Now we could have a hard choice, because we need to put in some hard choices that they're going to come across. I like to have hard choices, so here's the hard choice. Because they're going to stick together, right? They're going to stick together as one squad. They could separate, but you never split the party, and I doubt they would. Maybe they will, and that'll mix up everything. But the hard choice will be one of the buildings will come under attack by an Imperial squad. So one building comes under assault. Attack. Do they help or leave? Do they help or leave? Do they help the other squad by taking out the other building and for sure stopping the Empire from pushing all of their units forward? Because maybe if they only take one of the buildings out, oh, I like that. If they only take one of the buildings out, they will slow them down, but not as much as they could have. If they take both of the buildings down, they will definitely slow the enemy down, but they may lose people. Some of the characters may die. So I'm very big on like the lethality of the thing you're fighting. It's just as lethal as it is for the NPCs. It is lethal. You can die. You can take crits, you're dead. And so those risks they're not just like, oh, I want to be the big damn hero. It's like, no, those are real risks. Your character could be dead tomorrow if you screw this, if you decide to take those risks and play the hero. So those need to be hard choices. So do they help? Do they somehow go from one building to the other We could have some weirdness where they have lots of crazy options, like maybe there's some power lines that still run from one building to the other if they go up like 10 floors and do the grapple, like rappel down. Maybe they infiltrate from the ground, maybe they go underground if there's some options there. They have lots of options that they could do. So do they help, or do they attack the squad, or do they just leave? I like it. Let's see. And they could have the squad commander over there telling them to leave. They'll detonate it. They will detonate it. And then I will make a roll on whether or not they survive long enough to plant the explosives and detonate. So maybe the squad has the option of, like, we know we can't save them without, risking the entire mission, but maybe we can support them from the skyscraper and throw down some fire down there, and meaning that that other squad won't survive, but they will complete the objective. And it could be a great moment. It could be a really, oh man, I want to give, particularly their squad leader, those really hard choices, because she's going to be playing that leadership role. She's never done that in an RPG before. That'd be good. It'll be good. All right, so there's the one choice. I mean, when I'm talking vehicles, I'm talking like 12 ATSTs, multiple troop transports, and a couple of walkers. Like, we're not talking about something they can fight against or just sabotage. They can't just go to the depot and try to, like, plant some explosives. We're talking about a proper, like, assault group. An armored division is coming, and this is the only thing they can do to slow them down. It's YV929. Oh, whoops. Thanks, guys. All right, so now we've got our primary objective. So let's add a couple of sub-objectives here, or sub-encounters. Potential encounters. What would they be? An ambush? By a scout group? Some of you said, like, ambush. What would the ambush be? What would the Empire potentially have? Will this campaign be streamed? More than likely not. I think I might go ahead and just record it, and if I feel like it's interesting to the player base, maybe, or the viewer base, I might edit it down and put it up on YouTube. If it's streamed, it'll probably be over on Twitch. There's a link to my Twitch on in the description below. Could they jump into the AT-AT and hijack it? Now imagine, like, I'm trying to go for a fairly realistic scenario, right? So they're not Jedi, they're just normal soldiers. Ambush with a sniper. Potential civilian evacuation. Cool. Remember, this is en route to their primary objective, so they could run into civilians. And we can come up with some interesting decisions that they have to make as players. Sniper ambush is an interesting one. Ooh. Death Troopers seem a bit hardcore for this early on. It's probably going to be mostly Imperial Army at the start. Maybe they run into a Stormtrooper or two. Probably during the assault phase, but this is going to be mostly Imperial Army. If they run into scouts, I will say that it'll probably be a scout trooper as a sniper. As like a sniper team, maybe sniper team. We could even have this thing bullseye whoever the point man is. So if they make the point man a player, he gets a roll on the attack, right? And we could have them roll against stealth. So if their team is stealthy enough, and if their point man is good enough, they could spot the sniper first and then make the decision. Like, do they deal with it or not? Do they even bother? It's the oh, I like that. What was the Tom Hanks World War II movie, Saving Private Ryan? There's a moment where their squad runs into a machine gun nest, and they have the choice of just going around it. They were lucky enough to spot it before they walked into it and just got wrecked. And the leader there has the choice of, like, we could just go around it. This isn't our problem. And their sergeant says no. Or their lieutenant, I think he's a lieutenant in that, says no, we're gonna deal with this. We're not here to just complete one objective we're given. We're here to win the war. And it's a super hard emotional moment where he chose that, and a man dies. Spoiler alert. And a man dies for that decision. Was it the right decision, the wrong decision? If they wouldn't have attacked it, he wouldn't have died. And even worse, I think it was like their medic. So it was like he potentially put the rest of the squad in danger. But what would have happened if or their whole fire team? What if another squad walked in there? What if a whole platoon walked into that machine gun nest? How many would have died if he hadn't taken care of it? So that's that moment, right? Like, do they deal with the sniper? Do they wait until some other poor sap walks in front of it, kind of thing? Their choices. Let's see. Opportunity to take out Admiral, destroy comms, mission critical intel. Ooh. So maybe they reach like a small. They reach like a park area. What if they, as they're, because it's a big metropolis, right? What if they reach a park area? So like a park area. Park area. You've got civilian evacuation versus maybe mission critical intel. Or communication system. Communications relay, maybe. And they get to choose between, do they help evacuate the civilians? Or do they go after the communication system? Could be an interesting twist. Or do they split and try to do both? And then how many people do they lose making these decisions before they get to their primary objective? If they end up with only one squad remaining out of their entire platoon, and that sucks. How are they going to complete both objectives? Maybe they can't even try. That could be interesting. Let's see. Setting up a minefield, protecting the power generator, ambushed by snipers, rescue another squad, which could lead to making a big choice easier. Oh, that's true. So the civilian evacuation, one of the unique things that we talked about earlier was that everyone in the civilization that is capable has been trained in the military. They've all served, right? So even a civilian evacuation could be saving potential fighter soldiers. So let's see. So let's do with rewards, right? So if they do the civilian evacuation, if they manage to accomplish that, they get a boost in fighting units. So they get more soldiers on their side. Maybe we even introduce a character there. That could be fun. That could be a character that stays with them for all the way through the rest of the campaign, for all we know. Versus the communication system. What would they get if they took out a communication system? A coordination system. So we're thinking like a couple of so the Empire set up some kind of like to get through maybe some of the jamming. They've set up some kind of transmitter. It's used for allowing them to coordinate their attack forces on this front. Maybe it makes it easier for them to come back, right? Maybe it eliminates the thing they would have run into on their way back. Or better yet, they take out the communication system. It allows them to call for a transport. What do you think of that? So they don't have to make the walk back. They can fly back. Like they can get to a certain point, maybe back to this point, and they can call in transport. What would be better? That's kind of iffy, but burden some of the civilians with children. That could be good. And civilians could be described in a lot of different ways. So some of them children, some of them capable fighters. Oh, man. I actually have lead by example floating around here somewhere. Wherever it is. I think it's out in the living room right now. I think Tabby's using it. Yeah, we'll go into the enemy info. Oh, enemy rough numbers, like what they find out. And maybe they could avoid any further. Oh, if they go for the communication system, don't do transport. Transport's boring. Maybe they have an idea of, yeah, enemy numbers. Numbers and a hint that the objective is under fire. That the objective is under threat. By, like, they know that there's a weakness there and that there's a certain force heading to the main objective, and now they're ready for the attack. A little bit more, but maybe they know it's coming from the north. If they do that. Ooh, that's good. Oh, that's good. That way they can double down on where they send troops where their squad ends up going. Maybe they personally go to the side that's going to be under attack. That information could be good or bad. It could screw them over royally if they, depending on how they use it, right? The rebels find an old AT-ET in the forest, almost destroyed, but works. They use it as a diversion. Well, I mean, this isn't going to be a location where a Clone Wars battle is taking place, so yeah, AT-ET, maybe. I kind of want to save something like that for when they're on a proper, like, old Clone Wars battlefield. That could be great for a later story. An Imperial double agent turns up. That's a tough one, because most of them are, like, you know, locals. Vital Imperial codes that could be useful for later on. So communication system, enemy numbers, and yeah, that could be good too. Vital enemy, vital Imperial codes. I mean, I love having open-ended things like that we could use later on. I dig that. So instead of just giving them a civilian evacuation boost in fighting units, I will give them an intel on a supply location that they can rest at, and they can find some gear, maybe a rocket launcher, maybe they could get some food and supplies, and they can direct the civilians how to get back, so they don't have to sit there and protect them as they're going into harm's way. You know, that could also be the other choice. Do they send the people they could have taken with the civilians back to protect them, or do they take those fighting capable, you know, men and women and leave the civilians kind of to just be like, walk that way, you'll get there eventually, hopefully, like that kind of thing. Could be good. Also, thanks for the donation, Patrick. Appreciate it. We got a good ambush here. We got ambush, sniper team. Let's look up. Actually, there's a little bit of software we can use for this, and I have not used this yet. I have used this for creating characters before, for playing. Let me see, where is it? But I've never used this for creating encounters, so this will be a fun learning experience. So you can look up character generator on Google, and it will bring up a great Edge of the Empire character piece of software. We're going to use the GM version of this character generator. Here it is. So the character gen is this one that you can launch, and it'll let you fill out your character. It'll give you all of the limitations, like how much credits you have at the start, how many things you can actually buy into, and a list of all of the items. Now, you still need the rule books. Let me make sure I put this on the screen. You still need the rule books because it'll point to the rule books of like, oh, you want to know what the description of this weapon is? Well, go to Age of Rebellion page, blah 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 blah, and you can read the detailed description. But it will give you the stats. So, yeah, well, Tuesdays. Alex, thank you for the 5. Use the Empire's comms against them, misdirect and send them into an ambush. Oh, I like that. Better than just knowing where they're at. We could make, you know, here's what we'll do. We'll have a couple of options, because this is a great slicing opportunity. And if one of the characters has the slicing skill, they could have multiple options to get something out of it. Oh, I like this. So enemy numbers could be a thing, and they could get a hint that the objective is going to be under attack and coming from a certain direction. They could get vital codes that could be useful for later, or they could misdirect. That is not how you spell misdirection. And that made it worse. Yay, auto. Misdirection of enemy forces. So, boom. And now they lead them into, like, they know that part of, like, an airborne group is located maybe in the north and more of the rockier areas in a higher elevation, and they know they're ready for an Imperial attack that may or may not come, and now they can just lead the squad that was going to cause them trouble, or enemy force, to those defenses and just into a killing zone. And maybe they see that. Maybe they see what they did when they make their way back to base, when they make their way back to the city. What, like, the cost of what they did with that misdirection could be really good. I think that could be really good, actually. Just the Even if they're Imperial, you know, like just the cost of that battle. But it was better that they hit some place that they could defend against than not. So there's like, yeah, should be good. Should be good. Okay, as for our, let's go with our ambush. Let's go back to the GM thing. We're gonna learn how to use this, I think. Let's see if it's worthwhile. So, GM tools. We're gonna learn live. What could possibly go wrong? This will be great. Adversaries, encounters. We'll go to encounters, new. I think this has all of the pre-made generated NPCs. Now, I've made a lot of my own NPCs in the past. Encounter name, sniper ambush. Okay. In campaign, I guess I haven't made a campaign yet. I don't know how to do that. Let's just do add. Oh, and it added the encounter. Okay, and then modify, potentially? Adversaries, here we go. So you've got your description. Oh, this is where you do it. Okay. In the campaign, birth of the rebellion. I've got a couple ideas for long-term plans for this campaign where potentially we could do jumps. Time jumps. So they start off fairly low level. They start off as the ground pounders, the bottom of the barrel, and then as they do a bunch of missions, we kind of get a feeling for where they're going and where their skills lie, and then we do a 10-year jump. And now the Death Star has been destroyed, and the rebellion is like really a full-on, full ham, and now we have those early days where they think that they can fight the Empire on their terms, and they can't. And they start trying to like hold planets with shield generators and shit like that. And it just goes totally awry. But that's where these guys are, you know, this is where our campaign is at. This is what the command staff thinks they can do. And our players will learn you can't fight the Empire on their own terms. You've got to fight them. You got to come at them sideways. And I think that would be really fun. I don't know. I'm still thinking. I'm still thinking of like how we could do the later campaigns. Or maybe we'll just keep playing through. Maybe we'll take chapter breaks. I don't know. Adventure. Was it Fakor? Is that what we named the planet? Fakor, yeah. Fakor. Location. Capital. I don't know if this is a thing. Capital city, sure. Alright, so adversaries. What are they fighting? Did I not just save that? Update. Oh, look, now it says the campaign name and everything. Sweet! Alright, modify. Adversaries. In this particular battle, we're going to have search. Do I have to make them? Come on. Don't tell me I've got a... Yeah, it's going to be a minion. I thought this would have the list of, like, all of the things. And you can make your own vehicles. That's nice. There's all the vehicle stats. Armor on the sides. Hull trauma. Silhouette. All that fun stuff. This system's actually quite cool. No, I know they do. Sounds kind of neat, right? X-Wings and A-Wing and Y-Wing airstrikes. Well, remember, there's no X-Wings yet. In this time period, this is before the Death Star has fallen. This is before a lot of what happened in Rebels happened. So you're not going to see, like, in-com X-Wings flying around at this point. At least not right away. Some fun stuff we can do with that. Like, maybe they're part of a team that ends up capturing some Y-Wings from a melting facility or something like that. From the Clone Wars era, you know? Okay, so modify. Maybe this isn't gonna work. Because there's no rivals in this list. And there should be, like, tons of them. And there's no, like, new button, is there? Yeah, it doesn't seem to go... And nothing seems to be popping up here. That's a little sad. Groups, new group. Create a group name first. Before you create a new group, you must first use a character generator to create some trees. Alright, what other options do we have here? Gen editor, character gen launcher. Gen data editor. I was hoping this tool would be really, really useful for us to just grab character things. I know they've got. Here we go. Like, this has got all the armor. This is the data editor. Okay. Weapons, species, skills. We can go in here and we can actually change the data that it uses for all of our stats. Neat. There should be a few points where they can cause civilian casualties. Always interesting how they rationalize how to choose the King of the Norse. Yeah, it's a good point. That's a really good point. Like, the decisions that they have to make and weigh out civilian lives. How do they deal with it? It's pretty good stuff. BGM tool. Yeah, this is fairly focused on ground combat at the moment. Okay, new adversary. Oh, okay, so it opened up a whole thing here. So characters, talents, abilities, equipments. We can make characters with all of their equipment and make adversaries. I don't really want to do this because this is like making. This is making characters. We just need like a scout trooper with a sniper rifle. We don't need anything too crazy. So I will go back into that later, and I will figure out why we can't pull up NPCs. There's got to be a way. But let me go ahead and pull on my second screen. Let's see. Edge of the Empire. Scout Sniper. Somebody's made one, I'm sure. And there's lovely little cards that you can grab that will just give you all the intel that you need. Let's see. Somebody must have made a card. For quick reference for me, for the battle. Or just do a scout card. Empire Scout. Alright, I'll pull one out of here. No big deal. I'll do this later. This is just the numbers game of like what kind of health do they have, what kind of armor do they have, what kind of skills do they have, particularly for a scout sniper, what kind of weapon they have. But we'll talk about numbers. What would be a scout sniper team, what do you think, for this ambush? Imperial ambush. Next song. Obviously, we'd have our sniper. We'd have our probably range finder, like a Pathfinder team, right? And then what else would they have? Pathfinder would probably be armed with like a pistol, maybe a grenade, and the sniper would have his main rifle. And what else? Should be one. I think it should be a 3-man team. And then we'll put them in a really strategic location, like a high up location, give them extra range, a rifle that can shoot out of the range of most of the players, unless we end up having a sniper. And I don't think we got any players that have taken on the sniper role yet. So it means they've got to move up. And how do they do that? Like, how do they deal with that? Maybe some speeder bikes? Well, you got to be careful what you give the players, too. Speeder bikes would make sense. I guess there wouldn't be enough of them. Just a straight up team lead or a rifleman. I like that. Like a Pathfinder leader of some kind. So let's just do like a leader rifleman. Oh, so you like got some speeders to have them retreat? I don't think we're gonna do like a scout speeder group. These guys are more like a let's position a Pathfinder team in a location where they're gonna be there for a while. Like they're up in a building somewhere, they're in some rubble, the sniper's like laying down. Maybe we'll have it raining, so the visibility is already kind of shit. And these guys are prepared and ready because they're looking for any movement of the enemy so they can report back to base. Which could actually, if we change this around, and drop this here, if they took out the Imperial communications device instead of going through the civilians, then these guys wouldn't be able to report in. If they do report in, we could have them increase the number of enemies that they run into later on, potentially. That could be fine. Could you have an E-Web machine gun nest? We could do a machine gun nest, but I didn't want to throw everything at them at once. Unless we do, because we are talking about having like a whole squad move in. So we could do part of the thing is like 2 battles going on at once could be fun. And a nest. Yeah, it could be like an E-Web. I like that. We'll do an E-Web nest as well. but we'll split them up. So they're going to hear one battle, and they're going to deal with the thing in front of them, the sniper. And if they deal with the sniper, they can swing around and they can help out, giving it a bit of a time, like, we need to deal with this now because the other squads are under attack. They've walked into something, and the longer that they take, the more losses the other squad suffers. Ooh, I like that. Always, yeah, I like that. Because what are the other members doing? They're under attack, they're calling for help, they'll get surrounded, and the snipers will be killed. E-web nest. Suppression of other fire team. So they'll hear that as part of the story in the background, that fire from the U-web going off. But they can't do anything because as soon as they hear that, a round flings out and may or may not hit one of their people. And we'll make it something brutal too. We'll give that sniper like a heavy Imperial rifle, and he'll have all the bonuses for being like prone and ready to fire. And maybe even if I can give him the right leadership, if I give him the right kind of character next to him, like the spotter, I'm sure there's a bonus in there that I can have them working together to give him an even better role if they're working as a team to find targets, just to make it a little bit worse for the players. So that's why when I ask them, okay, you guys are moving out, what order are you moving in? And that way I know who the point man is. Could be good. Could be good. I like it. I like it. What about Imperial Spec Force as an encounter? That seems a little rough, right? If they're gonna run into like the Navy SEALs of the Empire, they need to be ready for that. I don't think their first mission, that needs to be an incredibly lethal encounter, and it needs to feel lethal. And if it's lethal at level 1, at 0 experience, it's gonna be they're dead. They're done at that level. So let's avoid killing off the players, and let's avoid being unrealistic with the campaign. I think that's a good idea. Okay, so we have our first mission, we have our first encounters, we've got a couple of characters, we've got their character descriptions. Let's grab this and delete it. That's random. And we have sort of Imperial leadership, which is like a name that we may just mention. I'll look this up and make sure it's not a character in the universe already. Faulty explosives. Well, that's all. I don't want to plan for anything like that. That's the fun of rolling. That's the fun of the moment of the game. So when they're planting the explosives, if they don't have a character who's good at doing that, they're gonna roll for it, and that can cause all kinds of issues. It may make it can't be remote detonated. It may make it so it doesn't detonate, and they have to come up with another plan if they get like a really terrible roll. I don't think I'd have it go off of their face. I think that's a bit much. They'd have to roll like the worst roll ever and have 0 skills in it, and then have like a bunch of setbacks to make that possible. Party wipes, fun. The factions will be in the game at the start. It's the Empire and the Fakor military. The Fakor being a planetary guard. And our newest members, which are the members of the cells coming in to help them out. Those are, like, I like it, terrorist stories, ethics versus winning. Terrorism versus ethics, I mean, could be definitely stories that we go on to a little harder later. This early one is just like, let's get the team in the shit really fast so they have that moment to kind of come together. It's like they have to work together or they're going to die. I like to start my campaigns that way. You guys didn't see the first episode of Edge. Edge was literally, we're on a ship, we don't know where we're at, we've been kidnapped, it's under attack. One of the decks has been blown out with no oxygen in it, right? It's in an atmospheric breach, and we have to work together to escape. And that was like, go, 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 into escape pod, boom, down to the planet. Now they're coming together because they have to. And that makes for the best character moments, I think. I don't like the whole starting in a tavern, because there's no moment to bring the characters together. It's just awkward, like, small talk. And most of the time the characters are like, I don't really want to be here with you. Yeah, well, I'm gonna go sulk in a corner because I'm a broody badass. The most boring character ever to play. Broody badass. Unless you've got the proper team that can interact with you, and you could be the straight man. My opinion, don't take that. Faulty rockets. Black Sun thugs. That's a little random. Why would we have Black Sun thugs just like roaming about? We've got plenty of enemies. For the first mission, though, I think we've got a lot here. We have the introduction, we can describe the scene, we can describe the city, the megastructures that have been collapsed and broken, the fires, the weather has actually maybe changed on the planet because of just so much debris and smoke from the 6 months of fighting all over the continent. We could have our first ambushes, grabbing a couple of bits of material, talking with the sergeant character, one of our players, about what's been going on this planet and the realities of the war and how badly it's going, and how they see it and why they didn't just surrender. I think that'll be really fun for the characters. We have an ambush. We have the point of like gearing up and moving out. We have dealing with the ambush. The aftermath of the ambush will probably take a little while. If we have a loss, we probably will have casualties. How do they handle their dead? I don't know. That's fun. The players will be figuring that out. Like, how do they deal with fallen comrades? What's the culture on this planet like? Do they kick some dirt over them, say a couple of words and leave? Do they bury them and take the time? I don't know. Could be interesting. And then we have the second objective, which has multiple parts that could change the campaign. We've got enemy numbers they could find out for communication codes, misdirection, and then we have the proper main objective, which can be a real fight. And what we're up against with that one is going to be like a full squad and a half, and I may just throw the book at them with that one. That needs to be one of those squads is making it back, unless they pull off some crazy shit. The scouts have a probe droid. Bad weather in general. Hurricane, tropical storm, jeez. I was thinking just like some heavy rain, you know, and then like plumes of smoke when the winds change that come from the city burning at the moment, from the constant warring. You'll have these big black clouds of just nasty blow through and drop visibility almost nothing periodically, meaning that like ranged combat just stops because no one can see anything almost. It's so thick that even like enhanced vision, but it doesn't last for very long. It just blows through and changes direction again. I think that could be really good. Maybe get a raid on Imperial arsenals to get supplies and slow them down. That could be like a secondary objective, like as they're pushing in, maybe for episode 2. I think we've got enough for episode 1 though. I'm gonna flesh out what they've got. I mean, we're probably talking armored transport. Let's see, where's the main encounter? The main encounter, we're probably talking like a full squad. Imperial squad. Probably heavy weapons. One heavy weapons team. Rocket team. So that could be rocket, that could be E-Web. Maybe mix up probe droid. So they could send that in first and gain where the enemy locations are, like where they're at, and how that could be good. That could, depending on who's there, we don't even know. This could all be for naught, and it's just a battle they never see because they're in the other building and they don't go there. But probe droid could be used. That means they can fly, so it can just jump over a lot of the obstacles and kind of be right in their face in almost no time. An officer, yeah, we need a command. So officer, probably a lieutenant. For early on, for their first engagement, probably the officer could become an adversary. The game works like this: you've got minions. Once they're down, either wounds or stress. Once they've taken enough damage, they're just dead. We can have an adversary, which is the officer, and he acts like a player. He has all the same like stress, all the same systems that the players have, and the same skills. So I could make this character be a thing, and that could be an opportunity for them to capture the player, or the lieutenant, and bring him back. If they manage it. I doubt they'll manage it, but they could try. Hell, they've got a droid that won't kill, but he will stun you, and he can hit you with his shield. So there is some non-lethal possibilities there for capturing people. The lieutenant would only be the one that could capture, though. We're not dealing with like random surviving stormtroopers. What's that? Rewards to keep the player invested? Good point. Rewards. What would a reward be in this situation? Like, they managed to get back. Oh, there, of course, there's going to be duty rewards. So duty points. Duty points. Let's do rewards. I mean, it's not D&D, so we're not going to be giving away rewards all the time. They don't have to loot like everything they walk across unless they're like, I really want an E-Web, and I have the strength to lift and walk around with it, because those things have like a 5 cumbersome rating. That is a character you can make, though, if you want to. It's like that armored shield that the droid has. This thing right here, this was the example we used. It's like a 3 cumbersome, so you gotta have at least 3 strength, 3 brawn to hold that. So duty points reward, but we need something else. You know, like what kind of gear would it be? Remember, blasters have stun. Oh yeah, I know they do. Yep. Did I say Cooper Eye? I did. Copper Eye. Duty points, ammo, supplies. We could do a supply roll. Ooh, well, the sniper's gun is going to be a default. Like, they're going to, if they take him out and he doesn't have the weapon destroyed, they'll be able to pick it up if they want to. I don't have a problem with that. If they have it on them, they can have it. Like, if there's a weapon on them, it's not just like, it disappears. They can just pick it up. I don't have a problem with that. That's why the most part, what's great about the Empire is it's all issued, so most of this shit's going to be the same. So once they found, like, an E11, a particular blaster rifle, only when they get into more unique adversaries, you know, lieutenants and officers and special ops guys who customize their gear, that's when they're going to start finding things that are just, they're different. They got different stats on them. It can be really good. Duty points, credits are always good. And some low tier. Yeah, we'll do a low tier weapon roll. Whatever they were fighting over, like, they could grab the weapon they want to do if they have anybody who has the strength to pick it up. I doubt they will. Those big things, they're a pain. And they also take a whole turn to deploy if they're using a bipod to alleviate some of that. So I'm always worried they're going to be OP, but honestly, I can just throw more at them if it gets real bad. It's the Empire, right? I'm already making it so that squad's probably not going to survive. I mean, we're talking, if I do full squad, we're probably talking, you know, 8 stormtroopers, and we're talking stormtroopers, not Imperial Army. I may go that route. I know, that's a tough one. Yeah, what if they save them in? Well, one of the things that I want to use as a resource in this campaign is manpower. So what they don't know is they're going to be promoted in this squad to the point where they're running the platoon. They're going to be the leaders of the 32nd if they survive long enough. They're going to start taking on those ranks. So that manpower, the people that they have under their command, they're going to get to know those characters, hopefully. And those characters are going to get more experience and get better. And they're going to have like a general, they're going to have, I want to come up with some stats so they have like a morale for the entire group. They're going to have a, you know, how many people survive the battle. And if they get back with these squads, these people will be alive for the later in the campaign, and they'll get to know them. They'll tell their stories. They're the reasons that these guys will get promoted. So, so there's the human reward. And then we can do some armor. It'll be low gear roll. So low gear roll. Maybe a supply chest in the building or something. We could have like a supply crate of some kind, or they're rewarded with gear as they come back. Could be good. Could be good. Mithril socks. That's what they need. Mithril socks. All right. Feeling pretty good about it. I think we've got just about everything we need here. I've got some number crunching to do to get our squads up, but I mean, the rebellion can never be OP against the Empire. I mean, sure they can. It's all situational, right? If the rebellion comes down hard on an Imperial installation that's not ready for it, suddenly they outnumber the Empire 3-1. Boom. That's a bit big. Pelta Cruiser's kind of going ham, isn't it? What they'll probably end up being is the survivals will be assigned to a ship, and that ship will be their home, like their home base kind of deal. That's what I'm thinking. So yeah, maybe a Pelta as a, if they survive. Yeah, actually, I kind of like that. If they do, Pelta home base, and they won't have access to everything. They'll just be members on the ship. But as they get promoted, they'll have more control over what's on the ship, what kind of gear and equipment it's got, upgrades. It becomes more and more theirs as their rank increases, because the Empire or the Rebels are like, well, that's your ship, that's your home. You've been on there now for 10 months, and you've been running missions off of there. So I think that could be good. The Grand Admiral knows all the plans. It's all over now, Dov says. And Imperials also have their superior weaponry. Yeah, well, X-Wing, TIE Fighter. Let's just say that. Oh, man. Alright, guys. I think I'm going to end the stream here. I'm going to be streaming a little bit later over on Twitch. We're going to play some No Man's Sky. I am building my Subnautica underwater base. in that game. I've got my like first starting bit underwater. We've been doing some testing. It actually works. So I'm gonna be building that today. It's gonna be lots of fun. So if you're interested in checking that out, head on over to the Twitch channel, hit the follow button. Probably be on there in a couple of hours after some lunch. If you enjoy the setup, let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in seeing the campaign, also let me know. I don't think the interest is super high there. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's definitely, or cup of coffee in my case. But I really enjoy it a lot. I think it's a ton of fun, setting all this up and kind of building up the universe and setting up these moments for the players. And they surprise me every time, and it's so much fun. So, all right, guys, I will see you all in the next one. Later, everybody.